ನಾನು ಧ್ರುವ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಮಾತಾಡ್ತೀನಿ. ಇವರು ವಿದ್ಯಾ ಅವರು ಹೇಳಿರೋ ಹಾಗೆ ಧ್ರುವ ಸಂಗೀತ is basically the music that's used in dramas, right? So ನಾವು ಇವತ್ತಿನ ಮ್ಯೂಸಿಕಲ್ ನೋಡಿದರೆ ಇದು ವೋಕಲ್ ಇರ್ಬೋದು, ಡ್ಯಾನ್ಸ್ ಇರ್ಬೋದು, ಇದು ವರ್ಣ ಇದೆ, ಕೃತಿ ಇದೆ, ಏನೋ ಹಾಗೆ ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಸ್ಟ್ರಕ್ಚರ್ ಇದೆ. ದೋಸ್ ಆರ್ ಡಿಫ್ರೆಂಟ್ ಟೈಪ್ಸ್ ಆಫ್ ಕಾಂಪೋಸಿಷನ್ಸ್, ರೈಟ್? ಸೊ ಧ್ರುವ ಈಸ್ not a particular type of composition, but rather it is for the purpose, for a particular purpose, which is that's how he comes up with the 5 different purposes also, right? For the purpose of drama, and within that there are 5 different Dhruva main types, and then there are subgroups and all that. I am assuming you guys all read those subgroups based on different things. So it is for a particular purpose, which we saw until pretty recently also, or maybe even today. There are different types of compositions, and they are all called darus. We said Dhruva has become daru. We'll talk more about it. And even in darus, you will see many different types of darus. They are not differently a particular type of composition like varna or kriti, but it has a particular purpose. And we'll talk more about that. So Dhruva ಯಾಕೆ ಹೆಸರು ಬಂದಿದೆ ಅಂತ ನೀವು ಓದ್ಕೊಂಡಿದ್ದೀರಿ ಅನ್ಕೋತೀನಿ. It is basically a connector. It connects many different types of things. Jati, swara, varna. These are kind of like overlapping to some extent. So I do not necessarily know why he mentions all these things. Say when he says swara and varna for Bharata is basically a particular types of movement for swara, right? Aroha is one, Vakra irbodu, hogiro. Then Bharata comes up with 4 different types of varna, movement of swaras. And then he says that varna, and then swara, and then jati, which is kind of equivalent of raga, then tala. They all are connected for the purpose of music in Dhruva. That's why it is called Dhruva, which is connector, right? So then there are so many different types he mentions. I want to get into that also if we start talking about it. Really tumba gojlagide for me at least, so I won't get into that. Ramprasad avare, for Dhruva, not for Darus, for Dhruva, do you want to add anything else here at this point?
What I have heard is Dhruva, the name also comes because it is constant. Dhruva means constant.
Right.
It means situation independent. So ಈ ಸಾಂಗ್ಸ್ ಇನ್ ಸಾಹಿತ್ಯ ಹೇಗಿರ್ತಾ ಇತ್ತು ಅಂತ just like entry ಅಥವಾ exit ಗೆ ಇರೋ ಹಾಡುಗಳು that can be plug and play in any play. So that's why a romantic song, it can fit in any movie. The same song can be replaced by another song. It doesn't really make a difference for the situation, alva. So ಅದಕ್ಕೋಸ್ಕರ ಅದನ್ನ ಧ್ರುವ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತಾ ಇದ್ರು ಅಂತ. This is what I have read somewhere.
ಇವಾಗ ನೀವು ಸಂಸ್ಕೃತ ಡಿಕ್ಷನರಿ ನೋಡಿದ್ರೆ ಧ್ರುವಕ್ಕೆ ಒಂದು 10 different.
Yeah, Dhruva means one of the meanings is a fulcrum. Number 1, it's a fulcrum around which everything revolves. And Dhruva is a constant. Dhruva is unchanging.
Right.
So ಈ 3 aspect ಇಂದ ಆ particular meaning that may have some kind of relevance.
Cool. So ivaga when you talked about Kalidasa's Abhinjnana Shakuntala, you mentioned a poem, right, which was Karna's sorrow when Shakuntala leaves. That is a very good example for Dhruva. When I talked about, so basically Karna says in that, I can find it if you guys want me to. Karna says, in actually words he says, Natakada word alli, he says, oh nange nan maglu nan biಟ್ಟು ಹೋಗ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾಳೆ, and then he goes on to sing these 4 or 5 different Dhruvas, and then which kind of like talks about ಈ ಮಲ್ಲಿಗೆ ಬಳ್ಳಿಗೂ ಕೂಡ ಹಾಗೆ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆ.
ಇಲ್ಲಿ
ನಾಟಕದಲ್ಲೇ ಇದೆ. So and you read it, right? You read 4 lines, right? So so then when I was talking about Vikramavasiyam, in chapter 4, I talked about how Purudava had gone crazy and he was just wandering around that forest, and then for each thing he sees, he sings, right? So he sings, and each one of those are like 4 lines. Those are all also basically Dhruva. He's explaining some kind of situation. Those are all we could probably say prasadika. Yakandre now there is an emotion, and someone is kind of like explaining what that emotion is and bringing that to the fore, right? So these are all basically Dhruvas. We don't know whether it was danced at Bharata's time, or at least rather, I don't know whether it was danced. But something interesting is that, and I mentioned this when I talked about Vikramavasiyam, is Kalidasa particularly mentions after this Dhruva in the bracket, under that he says, now he dances, Pururava dances Charchari. We don't know whether it is, there is no chari named Charchari.
Charchari?
Charchari.
Charchari.
Like it's Charchari.
Because Peredi is a dance form,
Right.
From Karnataka.
Right.
Ajali, there is one particular piece that they do Jarjari.
So maybe Jarjari is connected to Charchari.
Yeah.
We don't know, right? So there is also no Karana called Charchari. So anyway, but Kalidasa mentions after these songs that Pururava dances. So we don't know whether they just sang during Dhruva or sang and danced also, right? I don't know. So that's what I wanted to say about Dhruva. And now coming to, let's see whether I wanted to say anything else about Dhruvas. No, that's it. So coming to Dharus, even the name Apabramsha Agi Bandidenta, I mean, it's, when we look at it, it's clear. And a lot of people like also say that. And also if we see the purpose, right, we see that too. Mainly I'm going to talk about Bharatanatyam, Sadir, Dasyatam.
It's all right.
It's all right.
No. Yakandre Ivattin Bharatanatyam alla. I want to talk about Sadir. Yeah. So
True Bharatanatyam.
That's one. Second is Bhagavata Mela. Innondu Kuchipudi dance drama. So in these 3 forms, we see Dharus a lot.
Yes.
And it is said that the Dharus that we have available go back to like Vijayanagara period, to Yakshaganas. So these Yakshaganas are basically in Telugu language, and then there are a few of those, and then they mention a lot of Dharus in them. So what we have available that is called Dharu, especially, not Dhruva or anything else, called Dharu, go back to that period. So I often wonder whether there was a continuous tradition of Dhruvas, or whether like Vidyaranya, famously created Vijayanagara to bring back the Hindu Samrajya, right? So whether he was a musicologist and probably a musician too. So maybe he might have also said, we have to create this, folk arts for people, and then Bharata's Natyashastra or Abhinaya Gupta's commentary on that is going to be our text, and we will kind of like use that as a model here. Could be that too. Just I wonder.
I don't think, this loudly thinking, I don't think he would have resurrected anything from text. It's more like, yes, it's in practice in certain way, and maybe
but
formalizing.
We don't know that.
It could be formalizing.
Yeah, so Yakandre, we don't have a continuous way to connect all these things from 2000 years to date, or at least to 15th century. Yakandre, since then we do have, right? So that's what I'm talking about. So Yakshagana Admele, from Yakshaganas from that period, and then when Tanjavur Samrajya was created, all these dance dramas came up during Nayaka periods. They wrote a lot of where is that book? What are those called? Those are basically dance dramas, but there's a particular name for them. Kuravanji dance dramas are from Maratha period, but before that there's a lot. Even the kings wrote those, and they have a lot of.
This one?
No, Tanjavur Siddhas music. But beda Purvagila Bani Purima. So those also contain a lot of Darus. And then also the Bhagavata Mela came up. Again, Bhagavata Mela, some people say that it was created during Nayaka period. Near Tanjavur, 5 gramas were donated to Bhagavata Mela people, and then they settled there, and then started doing Bhagavata Mela there. So it could be the start itself could be there, or it could have been a parampara. And people were brought in to that Tanjavur area, and then they did it there. It could be either way, right? So I really don't know what it is. Probably someone else does. And even in those Bhagavata Mela, like Prahalada Charitam, right? And I will play some Prahalada Charitam. In that we see a lot of Pravesha Patra Darus. I mean, all of you have seen Bhama Kalapam, right?
Yeah.
So Bhama Kalapam, that's done in today's Kuchipudi as a separate dance, is basically from Parijata Apaharana, right? From that, where Satyabhama is being introduced, and it is her entry, Pravesha Patra Daru, for Satyabhama. And in the similar way, I think Rukmini Vijayamide or Bhakta Prahalada, whatever it's called.
Prahalada Bhakti Vijayam.
Nada Bhakti Vijayam?
Prahalada Bhakti.
That is actually Tyagarajas.
Tyagaraja.
This is written by either Veerabhadraya or Melathur Venkatramana Shastra, one of those, and that's what is being played even today in on I think Narasimha Jayanti. They do that, right? So that also has all these Patra Pravesha Darus also. So I'll play a little bit from there. And another is, of course, we talked about Kuchipudi, we talked about Bharatanatyam and Bhagavata Mela are very intimately connected. So all the, let me find names. In Bharatanatyam, what we Sadir did at that period. Raghunatha Nayaka. In fact, a lot of the dance pieces that we dance today, including Swarajatis, and Swarajatis were created by Melathur Veerabhadraya to be part of Bhagavata Mela dance dramas. With Bharatanatyam, Tanjore Quartet just borrowed these things. So those are like, there are different names. If you don't prepare properly, this is what happens. Okay, I'll find it. And then later, during Maratha period, all the Kuravanji dance dramas that came up in the same mold as what Nayakas were creating for dance drama also have many different darus, right? And one of the, like I said, darus can be in many different formats. Some of them may have Pallavi, some of them, some of them maybe just 4 lines. Some of them will have Pallavi and maybe a Charanam. Some of them will have a Pallavi and Anupallavi, Muktaiswara. That's it. So it is not a particular type of composition. It is just like for a particular purpose, which also kind of like slowly started dissolving later. Like when, say, for example, Muttaya Bhagavatar, right? When he wrote Mate, right, which is a daru, right? There is no purpose.
It is actually just like a varna. There's no difference from the regular varna.
So
that is why it's except for the solkattu and everything, right?
Well, actually, if we want to connect it to varnam, that's we can talk about daru. There is daru, jakkini daru. We'll come to varnam in a minute. it is just like Tilana. So Daru can be anything, and then when you put a structure to it, it becomes like if you put Varnam structure to Daru, it becomes a Daru Varnam,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
That's it. So Jakini Daru is basically, it is like almost like a Tila format. So Daru can be really anything. So Daru at some point became quite interesting. It was still pretty short. It was my works.
ಅಲ್ಲಿರೋದು
ಎರಡು ಕಿಲ್ಲ. Oh, here, sorry, found it. So it became quite a lot with Anuprasa. So for example, same letters tumba repeat agak suraitu, then it was like very tongue twister tara. So I want to read this particular Daru by Veerabhadraya, who was Pratapasimha andre mid 18th century Pratapasimha Raja in
He's sitting like Raja today.
And in his court, during his time, Melathuru Veerabhadraya was very popular. He created Swarajatis for the first time. He created Jatiswaras antanu heltare. He definitely created the first Tilana that we have available. Very talented guy. But we dancers cannot see beyond Tanjore quatrain, right? So this is his. So on the one ಎರಡೆರಡು ಲೈನ್ ಇದ್ದು ಒಟ್ಟಿಗೆ ನಾಲ್ಕಿದೆ. So nth line or not 4 lines, however you want to say it. ಕಂಟಿ ಕಂಟಿ ಪೂರ್ಣ ಫಲಂಬುನಿ ಗಂಟಿ ಪರತತ್ವಂಬುನ ಕಂಟಿ ಮಿಂಟಿ ಲೊಂಟಿಲೋನ ಕಂಟಿಲೋನಿ ಜೂಪುಚೇನ. So like it is like almost like a tongue twister, right? So it became things like that. And if you look at Mate Malayadwaja, Data, Sakala, Kala, Nipuna, Chatara, Data, you know, that data, also almost like
repetition,
tongue twister, right? Yeah. And let's see, we talked about Nayaka period, Yakshagana Nayaka period, Maratha period, all these Kuravanji dance dramas. We talked about Bhagavatam.
Anuprasa.
Yeah, Anuprasa. We talked about Sadir Kuranji dramas. Now, I think as the dance drama went down, I think maybe the roots in Sadir especially went down. But until then, you know, in the guy who wrote Sangita Sampradaya Pradarshini, Subramanian Dikshitar, he, Muthuswami Dikshitar and Balaswami Dikshitar, they all wrote Darus, and in like, you know, the structure is very different from each other. Let's see, what else am I forgetting? Okay, so that's it for the talk. So I want to play a couple of different things, just a little bit here and there. Even today in all the dance dramas of Kuchipudi, not just the old ones, of course old ones have Darus, but even when they create a new one, they always have Patra Pravesha Daru. And then they always have, like if there is a situation that is very important and that needs to be explained further, right, to get the attention of the audience saying here, right, so they use Darus.
Yakshagana,
that's why I want to talk
Dhruva,
to
Krishna Bandag, you have a certain
Actually,
Right.
like exactly.
Yeah.
We have Purvaranga. That Purvaranga can go to any Yakshagana prasanga.
correct.
Like you know,
Right.
like it can be.
Yeah.
And then there is couple of songs for Krishna.
Right.
ಯಾವುದ್ರಲ್ಲೇ ಕೃಷ್ಣ ಬಂದ್ರು it will
That-
be introduced with
So
Yes.
any Bhagavata,
Any
any song
any-
is a Daru
Yes.
in Yakshagana,
Yes.
basically, if you look at
ಹೌದು ಯಾವುದೇ ಪ್ರಸಂಗ ಇರ್ಬೋದು, ಕೃಷ್ಣನ್ ರಿಲೇಟೆಡ್ ಯಾವ ಪ್ರಸಂಗನೂ ಇರ್ಬೋದು, ಬಟ್ ವಿ ಯೂಸ್ ದ ಬಂಧನ ಕೃಷ್ಣ ದೇವರ ದೇವ
Right. Yeah.
for that. So I mean that those are all the you know.
So that's why it's a constant and it's Dhruva.
Dhruva.
It makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
I mean, this guy says
Madhyama is
is
from-
that it is connecting all these things, which also makes sense to me. So I
Yeah.
think it is a great name because it fits in many different ways.
And also, etymologically, Dhruva ಅನ್ನೋದು ಲಾಂಗ್ ಟೈಮ್ ಬ್ಯಾಕ್ ದ ಪ್ರಾಕೃತ ವೇರಿಯೇಷನ್ ಇಸ್ ದೊರ. ಅದು ದೊರ ದರ ಅದು ಓ ಬಿಕಮಿಂಗ್ ಆ ಇಸ್ ಆಲ್ಸೋ ವೆರಿ ಕಾಮನ್. ಇವಾಗ ಹಳ್ಳಿಯವರೆಲ್ಲ ಕೆಲವು ಕಡೆ ಮೊಲ ಅನ್ನೋದಕ್ಕೆ ಮಲ ಬಂದೈತಿ ಅಂತಾರೆ. ಸೊ ದೊರ ಅನ್ನೋದು ದರ ಆಗ್ಬೋದು, ಅದು ಯಾವಾಗಲೂ ಅದು ಮತ್ತೆ ಆ ಹೂ ಆಗಿರ್ಬೋದು. ಸೊ ಯು ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪ್ಲೈನ್ ಇಟ್ ದಟ್ ವೇ.
ಯಕ್ಷಗಾನದಲ್ಲಿ ಆಕ್ಚುಲಿ ಇದೆ ಪೂರ್ವರಂಗ ಎಲ್ಲವುದು ಕೂಡ ಆಲ್ಮೋಸ್ಟ್ ಅಷ್ಟು ಲೈಕ್ ಫಾರ್ ಎನಿ ಪ್ರಸಂಗ ವಿ ಯೂಸ್ ಇಟ್. ಬಟ್ ಯಕ್ಷಗಾನದಲ್ಲಿ ನೀವು ಹೇಳಿದಂಗೆ ಪ್ರಾವೇಶಿಕ ಧ್ರುವ ತುಂಬಾ ಉಪಯೋಗಿಸ್ತಾರೆ.
ಅದು ಮೋಸ್ಟ್ಲಿ ದಟ್ ಇಸ್ ದ ಒನ್ ದಟ್ ಇಸ್ ಬೀಯಿಂಗ್ ಯೂಸ್ಡ್ ಇನ್ ಎವ್ರಿವೇರ್.
ಎನಿವೇ ಅದನ್ನ ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಬೇರೆ ಯಾವ ಧ್ರುವಗಳು ಅಷ್ಟೊಂದು ಕಾಣೋದಿಲ್ಲ. ವೆರಿ ರೇರ್ಲಿ
ಅಲ್ಲ ಇದು ಟು ಡಿಸ್ಕ್ರೈಬ್ ಎಮೋಷನ್ಸ್ ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಾ ಯಕ್ಷಗಾನದಲ್ಲಿ?
ಅದೇ ಹೇಳಿದ್ದು. ಅದು ನಾಟ್ ಧ್ರುವ ಕಡಿಮೆ,
ಕಾನ್ಸ್ಟೆಂಟ್ ಇಲ್ಲ.
ಬೇರೆ ಬೇರೆ ಪದ್ಯಗಳೇ ಯಾವುದೋ ಒಂದು ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಯೂಶುವಲಿ ಇದು ಯಾವುದು ಶೃಂಗಾರ ರಸದ ಪದ್ಯಗಳನ್ನ ಒಂದೆರಡು ಮೂರನ್ನ
ರಿಪೀಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ.
ಸೊ ನೀವು ಹೇಳ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀರಲ್ಲ ಏನಂದ್ರೆ if it needs to be used, the same thing needs to be used in many different yakshagana. That is not just the definition of Dhruva.
I know, but
Dhruva is like just a small piece of music that can, that you
So it is still a Dhruva. It is still a Dhruva. It is not the
right. That's it.
When somebody like there's a horror scene, that's
ಅಲ್ಲ ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ ಪರ್ಫೆಕ್ಟ್ ಎಕ್ಸಾಂಪಲ್ ಕೊಟ್ರಲ್ಲ ಸಿನಿಮಾ ಸುಮ್ಮನೆ ದೇ ಡ್ರಾಪ್ ಇನ್ ಸಾಂಗ್ಸ್ ಅಂತ. ಸೊ ಎಕ್ಸಾಕ್ಟ್ಲಿ ಸೊ ದೇ ಬ್ರೇಕ್ ಇನ್ ಟು ಸಾಂಗ್ಸ್ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ ಬಿಕಾಸ್ ನಾಟ್ಯಶಾಸ್ತ್ರ ವಾಂಟ್ಸ್ ಟು.
ಯಾವುದು ವೈರ್ಲೆಸ್ ಕನೆಕ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು ಇಲ್ಲಿ?
ಶ್ರೀರಂಜನಿ.
ಓಕೆ, ನೀವೇ ಇದು ಹಾಕಬೇಕು. ಶ್ರೀರಂಜನಿ ಗೆಸ್ಟ್ ಕನೆಕ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀನಿ.
No, don't put connect to the guest because the guest password ಯಾರು ಜ್ಞಾಪಕ ಇಲ್ಲ.
ಎರಡು ಒಂದೇ
ಕನೆಕ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಾ? So I will play very quickly, maybe one minute each, of three things. One is Leelavati Patra Pravesha in Prahalada idu, which is actually from the mid 1700s. But then
You
I
can
will
connect it to TV ಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ.
ಹೌದಾ?
Okay.
but
ಇಲ್ಲ.
YouTube ತಾನೆ ಅವ್ರ
Yeah.
ಲ್ಯಾಪ್ಟಾಪ್ ಪ್ಲೇ ಮಾಡಿ.
ಹಾ.
No, it's fine. I'll make it bigger here and
Yeah,
then
yeah,
play.
that's
Because all of us can see. Oh, sorry. Allirಬೇಕಾ? Okay, so let's see. This is Bama Kalapam Nodana. This is what I wanted.